Ooh boy, this is going to be tricky for me to talk about. Mario Kart World is the newest installment in the beloved Mario Kart series, and I'm sure you're already aware of the controversy it garnered when its $80 price tag was revealed. Many were furious, and the 15-minute direct made to justify the price tag, and Doug Bowser's comments to those who can't afford a Switch 2 didn't help either. Now, I do want to start this off by saying that I'm quite the Nintendo fan. I've followed them since the GameCube and Wii, and have been the only console manufacturer and one of the few AAA game developers I support these days. However, I'm not one to blindly buy everything they put out. Yes, me buying a Switch 2 and a physical copy of World might seem a bit contrarian, but how else do you expect me to talk about this game? Besides, in the days leading up to release, I told myself that I was going to reserve judgment until the game was in my hands, which is how I've approached a lot of newer games, and after a couple hours with Mario Kart World, well, there's quite a lot to talk about, but since this game came out the same day the Switch 2 launched, I might as well talk about the console's other offerings before we dive into Mario Kart World. First is the upgrades. Certain Switch 1 games can be upgraded to Switch 2 for free, the most notable being Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which were enjoyable games in my opinion, probably the most fun I had with Pokemon on the Switch, but man, oh man, did the performance really hold them back. I honestly don't know what Game Freak was thinking releasing these games in the state that they were in, but now, holy sh**. The difference a $450 console can make. More Pokemon can be seen on screen, and when heading into DLC areas or back to Paldea, the load times are extremely fast. Yes, I know this is just Game Freak doing the bare minimum they should have done, and the game still looks pretty bad, but hey, it's free, and if this is a taste of what Legends ZA is going to be like on Switch 2, I'm feeling more confident in Game Freak's ability to deliver. There are other free upgrades, which mostly update the visuals and allow game share, but then you've got paid ones like Mario Party Jamboree, which offers a new TV party mode that costs $20 and requires a camera accessory which costs around $60. Yeah, no thank you. Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 upgrade DLC I might check out, but that's it, really. Next is GameCube Online, which I find kind of odd considering they released Pikmin's 1, 2, and Metroid Prime separately, which I figured would have been the direction they went in when it came to re-releasing GameCube games, but I guess they gotta get more Switch Online subscriptions somehow. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice addition, and I'm glad more people will get to experience the GameCube and its many wonderful titles, but I would have preferred these games being re-released instead of putting them into a subscription. Lastly is Switch 2 Welcome Tour. $10 for what is essentially a fucking tech demo. And with all of that out of the way, we can start talking about Mario Kart World. Now, as I stated at the beginning, this game is going to be tricky for me to talk about because there is a lot about World both good and bad, and I don't want to just say it's 10 out of 10 because it's Nintendo, since even the best Nintendo games are flawed in some way. The easiest thing to say about Mario Kart World is that it is not worth $80, but that doesn't mean the game is bad. Mario Kart World is good, it's a joy to play, and a lot of the new features and modes are interesting on paper, but in execution, we'll get to that. Mario Kart World plays like any other Mario Kart. You race 3 laps around a circuit, hopefully leaving your opponents in the dust and finishing first place. This is accomplished by using items to either give yourself a boost or slow opponents down until they ultimately get a blue or red shell at the last second, making you lose the race. The items this time around feature a mix of new and old items, including the Mega Mushroom from Mario Kart Wii, the Ice Flower which can freeze racers when hit, and this Kamek power-up which turns you and the other racers into Mario enemies, and is also how you unlock some of them. Yeah, more on that later. On top of the new items, you've also got new tricks that you can pull off with your vehicle, like rail grinding and wall riding, which play into World's gimmick of being able to drive everywhere. And you can pull off these moves with a wide variety of vehicles that'll make any motor enthusiast feel like a kid in the candy store. Gone is the ability to customize your vehicle, which I think is both a good and bad thing, since this means you don't have to worry about adjusting your vehicle for the meta and can use the one you like, but it would have been nice to change the colors of some vehicles. Lack of customization aside, the new driving mechanics are great, as they encourage you to get really creative with your racing lines and pull off some of the most insane shortcuts you'll ever see in a racing game. And the tracks take advantage of this creativity, as around every corner you'll find an opportunity to utilize wall rides and grinding to get ahead of the opposition. Like this little bit here in Toad's Factory, which actually helped me win this online race. race. And speaking of Toad's Factory, when it comes to the track roster, it has a mix of both new and reimagined versions of old courses, and visually they look outstanding. There are some weak ones like Boo Cinema, which is disappointing because the previews made this track look so cool, and Starview Peak, which I feel is too short and doesn't have a whole lot going on. But the rest of them range from good to great. Some of my favorites include Dandelion Depths, giving me some serious Planet Wisp vibes. Peach Beach from Double Dash returns with Lap 2 taking you to another part of the beach where I got carried away with riding on the walls. Faraway Oasis I love just for the setting alone. The same goes for Salty Salty Speedway. And DS Airship Fortress, my beloved, you look more beautiful than ever. And as for this game's Rainbow Road, well, I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it yet, but I will say it's absolutely beautiful. Oh, and the soundtrack. Oh man, the soundtrack is the f***ing bomb. However, as much as I like the track selection, there is one thing that can make it hard to enjoy these tracks, and that being this game's new setup with the Grand Prix. You see, another part of Mario Kart World is instead of being sent to the next race, you have to drive through these intermissions to the track where the next race is taking place. And I'm not too big of a fan of this, since you only do one lap of the track when you reach it, effectively turning these into point-to-point races. This means your first experience with these tracks are very brief, and you'll be unable to learn the best routes to take. Sure, in Versus mode you can just do all 4 tracks in a cup without the intermissions, but there should have been an option to turn them off. Some tracks, like Mario Circuit, attempt to shake things up by giving you a different Mario Circuit to race on, depending on which course you're coming from, but a major problem emerges from this, being that only the last 10% of the race matters, because you could be in the lead but then get hit by an obstacle or item and you won't have a lot of time to recover. You also can't go off the beaten path, you have to stick to it, which sucks for a game that's encouraging you to drive everywhere. And I think these sections could have been better if they had 200cc, which this game doesn't have for some reason. It also doesn't help that the AI is quite relentless and the item balance is absolutely crazy. I know Mario Kart is supposed to be hectic, but man, I can't tell you how many times I got hit by lightning and shells in a single race. It's likely to do with the racer count being expanded to 24, which means a lot more items are going to be thrown around, but it can make online or really any race in general just frustrating. But the odd thing is that the intermission tracks work way better in the brand new mode Knockout Tour, which has you going through a route that goes through several different tracks, trying to make sure you get to each checkpoint above a certain threshold to avoid getting eliminated before reaching the final destination, which can alleviate the excessive amount of items being thrown, and the longer length of these races are a better use of the game's connected world. Speaking of which, this brings me to Free Roam, which I have mixed feelings over. The goal of Free Roam is to, well, there really isn't an overall goal other than to complete the P-Switch missions scattered throughout the world, which admittedly are fun, but don't really have much variety and feel like a distraction at best. Question block panels can be found hidden on the tracks, but apart from the stickers, don't really give you much, and there's also Peach medallions which are needed for unlocking Mirror Mode. In fact, all of these things are essential for unlocking Mirror Mode, as you need to collect 10 of each and complete every single cup in Knockout Tour on 150cc. There's also character costumes that can be unlocked by eating the new Dash Food items, and the costumes are an excellent addition. Some of my favorites include Baby Rosalina's touring outfit, the long sleeves are just adorable, Runner and all-terrain Koopa, and every single one of Wario and Waluigi's costumes. Those boys have some serious drip, but sadly not every character gets a costume, which is really disappointing. I wasn't expecting this game to give a costume to every single character, but I was hoping my boys Dry Bones and Hammerbro would get some costumes, or if not costumes, at least some color palettes. It kinda discouraged me from trying out all the new characters characters the game added, because you don't really get that feeling of anticipation in seeing what costume you get from a specific dash food. Not to mention, the only way to unlock most of the character roster is to use the Kamek power-up at a specific course. Yeah, I can live without unlocking Pianta. Apart from unlocking mirror mode, a photo mode, which can be a bit of fun to mess around with, mowing down people with a truck and unlocking the costumes, free roam doesn't really offer much else, and for some reason the game doesn't have a checklist, which is going to be a nightmare for some completionists. However, I will say that there was something about the game's road trip vibe that just kinda struck a chord with me. I guess it's because I've gone on so many trips in my childhood, and free roam was kind of reminding me of those times of just sitting in the car and seeing all the sights passing by. I'm going to admit this is coming from real life experiences, but like I said, I really dig the road trip vibe, and the world does look beautiful. Something I completely missed are the cool details with the NPCs, which you can learn more about in this video by Onadoc, but man, the more I played and thought about free roam, the more I started to feel like this was a mode of missed opportunities. They could have tied unlocking vehicles and characters to free roam. Heck, the game counts how many coins you've collected, so why not allow me to find vehicles in the open world and purchase them? Why not allow me to challenge characters to single races and unlock them? There could have been much more incentive to explore if free roam was a proper adventure mode instead, but all it ends up being is just something that feels like an afterthought rather than something that feels extremely fleshed out. But to conclude, did I like Mario Kart World? Yes, I really did. It's still Mario Kart at the end of the day, and Mario Kart is fun. However, I know not everyone is going to feel the same way, and it doesn't have enough to sell people on that $80 price tag. It's clear to me that Mario Kart World wanted to try some more ambitious ideas with the series, and if I'm being honest, they do have potential, and I can respect Nintendo for taking a risk, something other AAA developers refuse to do. That doesn't mean I won't point out the issues, as an ambitious game doesn't always mean a perfect game, and that's okay. I can imagine Nintendo is probably going to have a few updates to address the issues I've brought up, and possibly do some post-launch content updates, which is a discussion for another time. But if I had to give a too long didn't read description of this game, it would go like this. Mario Kart World is an ambitiously fun game, but the execution of its ambitions leave a lot to be desired. And I just realized I managed to get through the whole video without mentioning the Moo Moo Meadows cow, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and the Steam Deck. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I don't have any updates for you, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm just here to give you the usual end of video spiel. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you want to see more from me, subscribe and turn on the bell. And comment down below your thoughts on Mario Kart World and which character you main. And with that said, I am the toasty dude named Thomas, and until next time, have a good one.